Welcome to our Game of Thrones discussion. I am Brian McBalls. With me again is Jordan Wade.
Hey guys, how's it going?
And this week we are covering Season 4, Episode 5, First of His Name. And I guess give the typical spoiler warning. If you have not watched up to Season 4, Episode 5 of Game of Thrones, you might want to back out. Book readers, I don't think there's any book spoilers here, but there could be. So if you want to read the books fresh, you might want to back out too. But yeah, we're going to just go right ahead and get this started. And we'll go for Tommen's crowning ceremony because I guess the episode's named after him. Tommen, the first of his name. He's been crowned king. And Jordan, you want to open us up with some comments on that scene?
Yeah, obviously the event itself is important because it's the passing of the crown to the younger brother of Joffrey, Tommen, and that's pretty much it as far as Tommen's involved in this episode. We do get a slight Varys sighting. We haven't seen much of him this season, but we do see him kind of going up to the king and giving his warm regards. But the main thing we'll take away from this is that Cersei and Marjorie's conversation. Obviously, Marjorie is trying to push her way into becoming Tommen's queen, being that Joffrey died. So she's been sort of, as we saw last week, she's been sort of playing this, secretive game. But then she notices Cersei, sees her up on the balcony, and Cersei comes up, and you could tell Marjorie's probably like, oh crap, I'm gonna have to deal with Cersei head on. But we find out that Cersei actually is very warm toward Marjorie. As a side we hadn't seen of Cersei toward Marjorie before, and she was somewhat cool with the fact that Marjorie's wanting to move in with Tommen, and she even says that she knew, she continues to admit the how hard Joffrey was to deal with and stuff like that. So this was interesting because at first glance we think it's Cersei turning over a new leaf, but as we find out over the course of the episode, that may not exactly be as innocent as it looks. There may be some ulterior motives to what she's doing.
Yeah, you're right on that point. One little detail to point out is if you remember in season 3 when Cersei and Marjorie talked, there was a comment made by Marjorie where she's like, I don't know whether I should call you sister or mother. And then Cersei told her back then, she's like, don't you ever call me that again or I'll have you killed in your sleep. And now she says the same thing this episode. Marjorie said the same thing. She's like, I still don't know whether to call you sister or mother. And Cersei just kind of shrugs it off and laughs it off. But I can kind of tell she's annoyed by it, but she's just kind of playing along almost, just to get in her good graces, I guess.
Yeah. Obviously, Marjorie's father will be a judge in Tyrion's trial, and this is probably the reason why we're seeing Cersei being so kind to her. But it was interesting to hear Cersei say that she needed somebody good by Tommen's side, and though Marjorie has been power playing for the throne, so far so far, at least to me as a non-book reader, Marjorie seems like, though she has motives just for power, she does seem to be pretty sweet and kind, and I think that might be her true nature. But yeah, so that was kind of the main thing I think we could take away from Tommen's naming ceremony. I guess the next thing we'll go into is Cersei continuing on and talking to her father. Tywin about the Iron Bank of Braavos. This was interesting to me because we obviously had heard Sir Davos bring it up, was it a couple weeks ago, about the Iron Bank, and that was the first time that I'd really heard about it in the series. But there was a big reveal, the fact that Tywin said that the Lannisters may not have as much gold as they like to act like they do. And Brian, I guess this is interesting to you as well because from what I understand, this may not be something that's been shown in the books before.
Yeah, the community's in a bit of a debate about it. It's one of the more debated statements of the episode because there's a lot of people who think that's they think it's counter canon. They don't believe it's a future reveal. They believe that they are just changing the story. And I don't want to go too far into that because there are speculations of why they've changed this fact. And it has to deal with Cersei's character. And I don't want to go into further detail than that. But yeah, a lot of people believe that it is indeed not true in the books. Um, so yeah, so there's that, and aside from that, that scene with Tywin, you basically get Tywin almost sees through her ruse. Like he's like, I know you're trying to get in here and get in to talk about Tyrion in the trial, but he's like, I'm a judge. I'm going to remain impartial, and he's like, I will not discuss that with you. So Tywin's straight up sees through it, and he calls her on it. But she was trying to sweet talk, or I guess influence her father, because she comes in saying basically, my brothers, they don't know what's best for the family, or they don't try to do what's best for the family. Like she's trying to pit herself on a higher pedestal than Jaime or Tyrion. And I believe she said something like, Tyrion's, he's burning our legacy, and we're going to let him get away with that or something. So, she's obviously trying to sour Tywin on, turn him against Tyrion even more. So it's good to see that Tyrion sees through that. And is there any other comments you wanted to make on? Well, actually, we'll talk about the Iron Bank a little bit too, because it's referenced that they borrowed a lot of money. The Crown is in debt to the Lannisters, and the Crown is in debt to the Iron Bank, is what they were saying. And it establishes how important the Iron Bank is, because it's a major financial backer of the Seven Kingdoms, of the Crown. And also, now that the Tyrells are in the fold, they owe a lot of financials to the Tyrells now as well. They're a major backer. So that is very important. Obviously, like you said, Davos had recognized that the Iron Bank was an option. So there will be some contention there, obviously. Davos and Stannis are going to approach the Iron Bank. So we'll see how that develops. Was there anything else you wanted to comment on that scene?
No, I mean just to continue the building up the Iron Bank, and I was shocked to hear that the Lannisters may not have as much money as they like to act like they do. Their slogan is obviously a Lannister always pays their debts, and there may be a time when the Lannisters may not be able to pay their debts. So it will be interesting to me to see how that sort of plays out as the series goes along.
Indeed. And then the final, this was a Cersei-heavy episode. The final scene was she approaches Oberyn, and this is a scene that I don't believe is in the books at all.
By the way, he wasn't having sex with anybody, which was nice. He actually wasn't in a brothel. He was actually out doing other things, which was good to see.
He's finally not in a brothel. I know, and I'm glad they did that, because Oberyn's a really interesting character. They've overplayed the sexual side very, very much so, but he does other things. He breeds horses. He goes falconing. He does all this other stuff. He's a very interesting man. He's traveled the world. He's forged links in the Citadel. He studied to be a maester for a little while. He's traveled the world. He's been a sellsword before too. He joined a sellsword company.
So he's a Renaissance man in this world, basically.
He is a well-traveled individual. So yeah, there's so many interesting facets to this character, and I'm just glad they've established he swings both ways and he likes sex. So I'm glad to see him out of the brothel, and he sees the light of day. Whenever he decides to come out of that brothel once every couple weeks or whatever, but it's a anyway. She approaches him, and she's trying to draw sympathy from him. I guess getting some little fake tears in there, and I guess this is another scene, I guess, where they're trying to reestablish. Hey, remember Myrcella? We sent her to Dorne, pretty much. So they're drumming that up, reminding the audience that Cersei does have a daughter, and that the Dornish do hold her. So that's an important thing to take from that scene.
And actually, yeah, that was really interesting to me as well, because as much as we may feel like there are like crocodile tears coming from Cersei in this conversation with Oberyn, that is a very real moment when Cersei asks him about her daughter. Because she hasn't seen her daughter since she was sent off in season 2 was it that she was sent over to Dorne?
Yep.
And if there is one, even though Cersei can be venomous, she can be pretty cold. There is one thing that she does pride herself on, and that's the fact that she is a loving mother. Though it's not readily apparent, she is a loving mother and she does care about her kids. And there was a very interesting line that she says, she wanted to make sure that Marcella was safe, and Oberyn says that we don't hurt little girls in Dorne, and she says they hurt little girls everywhere in this world. And I thought that was a very powerful line, because I thought it was said with it was said sincerely, and I think without going too deep, it shows the many layers of Cersei beyond just the cold, hard individual that we see in most episodes.
Yeah. But yeah, other than that, not much else that I think is important in that scene. That's the main thing to take. And Oberyn, I don't know, in that scene, how did you think Oberyn interpreted that conversation?
If he, it's one of those things where we didn't get a lot of reactions. I mean, I would hope that he can see through what Cersei's doing, and trying to butter him up before the trial, because then he is. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's been a few days. But doesn't he ask her if she sincerely believes that Tyrion killed her son? Does he ask her that in that scene? It seems like I feel bad.
I believe so, and I think I believe she says yes, he did. Like she almost makes it sound like there's no other way that went down.
And I felt like that was his way of getting her true feeling on the situation, and I felt that was him gauging whether she's going to continue to try to butter him up or not, and try to get him on her side. So I think Oberyn is an intelligent individual and will be, as unbiased as possible going into this trial. I mean, he's had as many basically as many interactions with Tyrion as he has with Cersei at this point. So at least to the audience, in front of the audience. But yeah, I mean, I imagine that maybe with the exception of Marjorie, Tywin and Oberyn, I'm sure, understand what Cersei's trying to do in these conversations.
Yep. So we'll move on to Brienne and Pod. They've hit the trail, and Pod is like the worst horse rider in existence. I don't know. It was a goofy scene.
Yeah.
And then you had that. Oh man, I want to find that image and show it on the screen. But there's another part where they're starting a campfire, and Pod he's basically roasting the rabbit on a stick.
Yeah, showing off his culinary skills, and burning the rabbit to a crisp without not skinning it properly.
Without skinning it. I'm gonna see if I can share the screen real quick, just to show everybody what we're talking about.
Though I mean, the horse riding scene, it was goofy, and it may went on a little longer than it should. There it is.
Yeah, there it is. The rabbit and with Gordon Ramsay's fucking freaking out about it. I love that picture. I thought it was hilarious.
I laughed pretty hard when you showed me that. That was absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
But yeah, as goofy as the horse riding scene was, I felt it. As long as they don't continue to show these two doing like the same goofy shenanigans every time we see them together, then that scene was fine, because I think it established just the odd couple relationship this is. Bree has always been sort of a lone wolf in her travels through the world, and she doesn't need a squire. But Pod is obviously he's dedicated to being the squire, as he's been asked to take on this role. And we see some more of that at the fire, where Brienne rejects his helping to help her with getting her armor off, and obviously she hears Pod's side of the story and how his journey with Tyrion was, and you see why he was so loyal to Tyrion, and how great of a squire he was for Tyrion. Even if he didn't do exactly the proper duties of a squire would be what the squire would do for a knight, he still was very much Tyrion's right hand man and his his understudy.
He was very loyal. Yeah, there's a quibble I have with this scene, and basically. It makes Pod seem very incompetent at being a squire, and I don't think that's I don't think it's a very fair assessment of him. Basically, before Pod came to King's Landing, he was a squire for I forgot, somebody in the Lannisters' army, and he would actually like protect the baggage train, and there was like the where they stored all the food. So he was like. And he was around to cook. I think he would have learned how to cook. And even given this, too, is that he was younger in the books, and he seemed more experienced. and they've aged him up a bit in the show, but they made him seem like a complete like klutz. Like he's just awful at doing squire work.
Yeah, he's a borderline buffoon in a lot of these scenes. It seems like.
So they've really changed the meeting of these two characters completely. Yeah, Pod is awkward. He's socially awkward, and he's a little shy, and he doesn't always have the right thing to say. But he's a pretty smart kid. I think the show is not giving him enough credit. But at the same time, they are doing it for some comic relief. And at the end of that scene, I think that might be the end of the goofy Squire routine, because after it's revealed that Pod had to kill a man to save Tyrion's life, that's when Brienne seemed to kind of warm up to him, and she let him come and strap off her armor, and it's like she realized, this kid he's got heart, that's one of the things I love about their relationship is you have to understand Brienne grew up and she was shunned for being unladylike. So she leaned more towards doing a knight's work. She wanted to live that tale of valor. And so she was trying hard to be something that society wouldn't let her do. And then I think this is the kind of thing that ties her and Pod together, is that Pod he may not be the most suited to the task, but you could tell he has his heart in it. And because he's following that through, I think that's why she respects him and wants to help him pretty much.
Yeah, and as long as they don't continue to do just goofy, over-the-top stuff from here on out, I'm fine with the kind of goofball antics that we had this week.
Yeah, I am too. I'm hoping that's the end of that. And then that was a quick scene, so we'll move on. Daenerys and Meereen. So she's in her pyramid chamber, and I like that line where she's like, "So, what's his name? She's like, Dario, I heard you got the Meereenese fleet. Who told you to do that?" He's like, "No one." It's like, why did you do that? It's like, "I heard you like ships." I thought that was funny. And then I like how it's like, there was a meme about that one too, where they had that dialogue word for word like I said it, and then it showed Daenerys like looking in the corner, and it was like her thoughts, just like, "Damn, he's right. I love ships. Fucking love." It's like, fucking love ships. Like, it's so good. But anyways, from this scene, they're talking about the possible invasion of Westeros. Can it be done with 10,000 men? Basically, all this stuff is quite different from the books, because they basically say, "Hey, we have the ships. We can move our 10,000 across, and so we could start on Westeros." And this is where she says, "Hey, look, I can't even rule over three cities over here in Slaver's Bay. How am I going to rule over 7 kingdoms in Westeros, pretty much?" And this is an important thing to talk about, because conquering and ruling are two different things. And Daenerys has established she can conquer. She's successfully taken over 3 cities, conquered them. But she has so far been unsuccessful at ruling them. The 2 previous cities she has invaded have started to revert back to slavery, pretty much. And she has these hundreds, tens of thousands of people following her who are freed slaves, and they depend on her now. And if she just leaves, she's leaving thousands of people behind to starve or be enslaved or killed. So I think this is the beginning of a new session for Daenerys. Basically, she will try to learn to rule, and that's basically what she's saying here. Is, "I'm staying for the long haul. We're gonna rule this city." So, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what I gathered. I had actually wondered how much, and it sounds like it's outside of the fact that there may be some differences with. So you're saying the difference is that did they not have the ships at this point in the book, or did they?
They don't have that many ships in the book at this point.
Okay.
They could not transport the entire army and all their horses or anything like that. So that was part of it.
And so it's a little odd why they would even bring it up, other than the fact they wanted to show that Dario, other than they wanted to build up Dario as sort of this sort of swashbuckling guy who can kind of take whatever the heck he wants, and he's a Han Solo-esque guy, and it's just
Yeah.
I guess that's all it was character development for him. I understood, like it makes sense that if Dany doesn't have the power to go, I mean, like they said, she has the power to take King's Landing, but she doesn't necessarily have the power to take on the other kingdoms and take on the Seven Kingdoms and unite them. I mean, they were saying, well, you could possibly get the old houses to join your side and stuff like that, but those are big ifs for Dany at this point, and so it sort of makes sense for her to continue to try to gain power to rule in the eastern part of the world.
And that's something I guess I could bring up at this point because, well, the 10,000 taking King's Landing, that's debatable. I think was it Barristan or Selmy? I mean, was it Barristan or Jorah who said, we might not be able to take it with 10,000? They were saying that they might have a good chance because they're coming out of nowhere. If they just come and land without warning, they might have a chance. But,
I feel like it was Jorah who warned her against it. I think it was Barristan who, I can't remember exactly who at this point, but yeah, it seems like it might have been Jorah who warned her against it.
Yeah, and so, I want to bring this up is that I know a lot of book readers. There's a lot of people who think Daenerys spends too much time on the Eastern Continent, and as we can see now, she is going to be spending more time here. So, and I think it is fair. Yeah, everybody wants to see her go to Westeros, and there's probably nobody who would say otherwise. They want to see her come over with dragons and see what happens. But it makes sense in the narrative that she can't just come over with a minuscule army and some, teenage dragons, pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, her dragons are getting bigger, but they are still pretty small in comparison to the dragons that invaded in the Targaryen conquering. Aegon and his sisters. So, I think this makes sense in the narrative. She does need to garner more power, and she needs to be more prepared. And so, yeah, this is just the beginning of a new chapter for Daenerys, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, from a logistical standpoint, that conversation, the fact that she could possibly take King's Landing but not be able to go on further than that makes complete sense to me. They might have a surprise attack, but the fact that you're attacking from sea, you don't have the high ground in that situation. You're able to sucker punch, but even though you have 10,000 Unsullied or 8,000 Unsullied, that's there will be it's not easy. So it makes complete sense for me for her to stay in the eastern part of the world longer.
Yep. So let's move on.
Arya and the Hound.
Arya and the Hound. Let's touch on that briefly. We got some short scenes with them. Anything you want to say to start this one off?
No, I mean it was interesting. We see a callback to season 1 to Arya's learning of how to be a swordsman from the supposed best swordsman in all the land, and you see her sort of dancing and what she says before this part, she's laying by the fire reciting the names that she does before she goes to sleep, and she leaves. She says the last name that she plans to kill is the Hound, and I found it kind of funny that they put so much emphasis on that, because if she's saying this every night, I'm sure the Hound has heard his name every night since they've been traveling, So I didn't really understand the emphasis on saying the Hound in that moment. It's like the guy knows she hates him. The guy knows that she wants to kill him. He doesn't care, He knows that he can completely overpower. He should know how to truly kill a man of his stature. So, but the next morning he thinks she's sort of run off, but we find that she's down at the end of the hill practicing her sword skills, and he just slaps her in the face and knocks her down, and basically saying that she knows that she continues to know nothing. She needs to learn these hard lessons as time goes on if she's going to survive in this world. It's just the same. It's sort of the same thing going on. It was a neat scene. It was another scene of just sort of degrading Arya's code, but it is more of the same of what we've seen from these two throughout.
I love Roy McCann's dialogue. I don't know. He's the funniest thing in the show to me right now. Uh, obviously, his whole chicken thing from the first episode, but
Yes.
I mean, I love how she's like she's basically saying, yeah, he's the greatest swordsman ever, and is like well, I forgot how the dialogue went, but she's like, who killed him? And she's like, Marin Trant, and he's like, Marin fucking Trant, like the way he just says that, it's like the delivery is so perfect. And then she's like, well, he didn't have a real sword. He only had a wooden stick. And it's like the best swordsman in the world doesn't have a sword. Like, I don't know. It's just so good, man. I love seeing. He's hilarious to me.
He's real. He's very real. I just love how he just keeps on stabbing holes in her little story. You know, it's like saying, like, you see where these plot holes are at. You see what's wrong with this whole situation, and you know, and then her whole fairy tale image of her, you know, her former teacher is completely torn down in front of her, and especially when she tries to stab him with a needle, and it does absolutely nothing to his chainmail. Like he just looks at it, and it's like, really, like that's, you know.
No, that's good. But it was a real quick scene, and it further establishes more reason for Arya to hate the Hound.
Yes.
So we got more of that building. I didn't have anything else on that scene, unless you wanted to say anything else.
No, I'm interested to see. I mean, I'm assuming it's building towards something bigger. But I guess for the time being, it's still more of Hound's weekly tough love sessions, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much. I did just a brief mention. I did love the scenery of that. I mean, where they chose to shoot their scenes, it's beautiful.
Like, oh yeah,
it's just awesome scenery.
They're supposed to be in the Riverlands, so you imagine that area should be pretty beautiful, and they've picked some pretty nice scenery to film their scenes.
Yeah. And let's see. That's all the minor stuff. Now we can talk about the North. We can talk about Jon and his close encounter with Bran and Craster's Keep. I found something funny online. They were calling the whole debacle of Jon and Bran and them running into Craster's or whatever. They're calling it Weekend at Craster's. Like, you ever seen that movie Weekend at Bernie's? It's kind of like.
It's a classic.
Yeah, Weekend at Craster's. So like, it's just kind of funny because Bran and them they're staying there for a couple episodes, so it's kind of like a weekend almost. Like, this is, but I don't know, it's pretty funny. But yeah, so I guess we'll talk about that. There's some scenes. We'll talk about Bran first. Bran is conversing with Jojen, and Jojen's pretty much saying, "Hey, look, your journey doesn't end here." He's already seen it in the future. He's like, this is just a temporary setback. You'll be on your way to go see the weirwood on the tree, find the three-eyed crow or whatever. And I like that imagery of the tree. I think that looks really good.
Yeah. I thought Jojen in general, his visions and everything, he was very cool in this scene. It was the most, and I had told you before filming this, that I felt Jojen had a lot more going for him this week than we've seen in his entirety before this, and him and Nyra have sort of just been kind of tagged along, and we know that they understand Bran's power and stuff like that, and they're there to sort of protect him on his journey. But I know they're two of your favorite characters from the books, and it's been somewhat disappointing for them to not have much really character development other than the fact that they're just sort of traveling on with Bran. But I thought it was cool that Jojen very much believes in his power, and he stands up to Carl and Carl's men, and even when Nyra is when they're threatening to rape Nyra, basically in front of him, he's still very defiant. And I thought it was a very cool scene for Jojen in general.
Yeah, no, this is actually good because it's showing proof that his visions come true. Mm-hmm. That's one thing that, thinking about it now, they haven't established that his visions come true. I mean, this is the first episode I can think of where things are coming true for them.
Yeah, I mean, really, his visions in the past have really been just basically him going into him going into Bran's dreams and sort of guiding Bran through the dream. More of him being a kind of a spirit guide more than anything else. We haven't really seen any of his true visions.
So like, I'll mention that in the books, it's quite a bit different. Bran is introduced to these two characters a lot earlier in the story. Technically, when he was still at Winterfell, that's when they came to him. And Jojen proved early on that his visions come true. He says that the green dreams do not lie. They always come true. It's just we have to, sometimes you have to interpret them a certain way. So, do you want me to talk about how he proved his how he proved his dreams come true?
Sure.
It's something that probably won't happen in the show because this is already past and done. But basically, he has this dream where um, he says that Bran and there's two Freys who were there to be wards for the Starks. And these two characters don't exist in the show, but there's these two Frey boys. They're pretty much young assholes. They're like they're little arrogant bastards, and they're kind of like they kind of show you beforehand that the Freys are kind of like little dodgy people. But anyways, the vision is that he said he had a dream where Bran is at a feast, and he is served a really good meal. Like it looks delicious. It's like the most succulent meal ever, and then the Freys are served a cold, like rotten dish, but they enjoy the food more than Bran does. And he didn't understand it at first. Like they went to a few, he went to a few dinners and nothing like that happened. But it turns out that the interpretation, the way that the dream was shown, is different from the actual event. So what happens is instead of being a feast, Maester Luwin gets a raven in the mail that says, "Hey, so Robb has won a great battle at Oxford." And one of the Freys, the heir to Walder Frey, was killed. The first in line. So Bran got a good meal, which is basically Robb won a great victory, but the Freys they just heard that one of their family members have been slain, and rather than weep or give any kind of concern over that family member, they just go straight to talking about who's next in line. Like they're just basically squabbling over who's heir, pretty much.
Ah, okay. Okay.
So it kind of that's when Bran's like, oh my gosh, was like this is actually true. They're served awful news, but they're enjoying this more than he is. Like, and so that's how he found out that the visions were true. It's just a matter of interpretation. And to expand on that, Jojen says he also has a dream where Bran and Rickon are killed. And it turns out that in the vision he's seeing the two Miller's boys that were hung up. You remember when
Yes, when Theon's having to prove that he went and got the two orphans, correct?
Yeah. So basically there's multiple instances in the series at that point that Jojen had proven his visions come true. It's just you have to interpret them correctly or whatever.
Interesting.
So in a way, it almost doesn't make sense why they follow him. I mean, I know we understand Mira follows him, but you'd think that Bran would be like, "All right, you have magical powers, like, yeah, I'm just gonna follow you, pretty much." I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's good. I went a bit off track there, but I just wanted to bring that up. There's a lot of stuff that's been left out for these two characters, but like you said, Jojen got time to shine. He basically saw through Carl's shit, and he's just like, "Hey, look, I'm not worried about you." There's another meme about that one too, where they call him book plot Jojen or something like that, where he's like, "Hey, look, I'm not even worried about you, man. You're not even in the books." And then they just have they just have a picture of Carl just like scorning, like he's like really pissed off about it. And then there's that other one too where Bran's about to call out to Jon, and Jojen's like, "Hey, look, this doesn't happen in the books. We gotta go." So I don't know. It's just funny stuff, but anyways, yeah, Jon makes it there. Locke actually comes there, and he sees the boys. He's trying to basically get in and get Bran out without Jon even knowing.
Well, yeah, he actually misguides Jon. He tells Jon that one side of the camp is,
there's hounds over there, and stay away from it.
Stay away from over there. They're going to cause a lot of trouble. So Jon just takes it at face value and says, okay. But they go ahead and do the attack anyways. And it was interesting that Jon just showed up right in the nick of time to stop from Mira being assaulted by these men, and everything happened so perfectly in this scene, obviously.
Yeah, and just as we expected, we talked about this last week. We were like, yeah, I really don't believe Jon and Bran will have a run-in together, because in all honesty, there's no way Jon would let him go. Jon has lost so much family, and he loves his brothers so much, and he would not let Bran go at that point.
No.
Like, there's just no way. So as much as I would have loved to have seen a reuniting of the Starks, it wasn't in the cards. Like they couldn't have done it.
No, and the reasoning for it was understandable too. I bought into the reasoning. I think they did a good job with that. But yeah, I guess we get the interesting part of the battle. Obviously, is that Jon faces down with Carl inside close quarters, and I love that you sent me again another thing on the internet. You sent me this image of when Oberyn very early on this season, he says you don't use a sword, basically saying a sword's ineffective in close quarters. And what happens? Jon has his broadsword, and Carl's got 2 knives, and Carl has the complete upper hand on him.
Yeah, Carl does have the upper hand. He fights like a freaking hibachi chef. Like, it's so funny, dude. Like, you see him, he's like, ching, 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 let's fight. Like, it's like something I saw at, like, what's that place? Not Kona Grill. I forgot the name of the restaurant. But, you ever been to a hibachi where they have those, like, flat tops and the chefs, like, flip everything around and stuff?
Heck yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought it was. But, yeah, it's poetic justice that one of Craster's wives stabs him in the back. It's also poetic justice that Carl, who had killed the Lord Commander and was drinking from his skull earlier, is then avenged by the Mormont family sword through his skull. So justice was done, and we gotta really I guess put some attention to that. Is that in this series, the good guys don't get a lot of justice. That scene doesn't exist in the books. Carl is a different character for the most part, but they don't come back to Craster's in the books, and the mutineers do not get justice, on screen at least.
Yeah.
So it is a very rare occurrence when a villain gets comeuppance in Song of Ice and Fire. So we have to definitely recognize that we got some comeuppance here.
Yeah, and also it continues to build up. This whole battle with the mutineers continues to build up Jon. Obviously, you and I felt that Jon was sort of a weaker character last season, and we're kind of getting to see him build up as a potential lead. A lead at the wall, and so though Jon didn't necessarily win the battle outright with Carl, he did ultimately serve justice, and his side did win. I do want to say though, I'm kind of surprised that although I shouldn't be surprised that Carl's a bit of a different character in the books. Burn Gorman, who plays Carl, I don't know if he's recognizable to a lot of audiences. He has small roles in many films as of late. He was in Dark Knight Rises as one of the bad guys, and he was also in Pacific Rim in a small role with Charlie Day, more of a comedic character in that. But Burn Gorman, I've been impressed with all these little roles he's had. He's got a very unique look, and his look sells the villain. The way he just kind of scrunches up his face and the way he can sort of alter his voice, he just has this very villainous presence, and I was happy when I saw him in this show, and it's sort of unfortunate that his role has come to an end, but it was a nice little villain to have for a few episodes.
I liked him too. I thought he did a great job, and yeah, you're right. You mentioned Dark Knight Rises. I was just flipping through my cable the other day, and I put on Dark Knight Rises. It was on TV. I'm like, oh man, it's him. Like I never really noticed him before, because I guess I haven't watched Dark Knight Rises since the theater, so. Yeah, that was a good surprise, and yeah, he's gone now, and that also brings us to Locke. You had mentioned you enjoyed his tenure on the show so far too, and he got his comeuppance this time.
I did, and that brings a big question up. I wanted to ask you about Locke. Is that Locke is Locke a character in the books as well, or is he a character created specifically for the show?
He has the name of a character in the books, but he is completely different from what that character is.
Okay.
So he is pretty much an invention of the show. Yeah, he is an invention of the show, pretty much. What I want to say about him, let's talk about that scene a bit. So we have the infamous Hodor Unchained scene.
Yes.
Where Hodor gets loose, and Bran wargs into him, and he has Hodor come and hunt him down, and he basically just breaks his neck, like he he just twists his head and breaks it off. The severance at the shoulder, pretty much.
Yeah, with little to no effort.
Yes, and that's actually based on a line in the book. Someone there's a passage in the books where they're talking about Hodor and how he's very gentle natured, and they talk about how he was cornered in an alley at the market one day where there was just some like local boys just tormenting him, and he would not fight back. He would refuse to fight back. He would just cower and cover his body. He's a gentle giant. And someone makes the remark that if Hodor had a mind to, he could twist someone's head off their body, or whatever. He could break their head off, And it's just funny because that's what he does here. It just illustrates his strength, and that's a little bit sad too, because you see after the death, after the killing, Hodor looks down at the guy, and then he looks at his bloody hands, and you can tell he's like, "Oh, did I do this?" Like he looks like he's terrified. I almost feel bad for the guy.
It was a good reaction for Hodor, and it was an interesting moment for sure. That to see that the blood on his hand of not completely understanding what had occurred, obviously because he wasn't present in mind, but sort of being able to, even in his simple ways, to sort of maybe even draw connections of what occurred.
Yeah. All right. Ghost and Summer are freed, and
Yes.
Ghost gets his revenge meal on Rast. That's a good thing to see. Also not in the books, but it's more comeuppance. Like I said, this is a lot of good things happening. This doesn't happen often in this series.
Well, I almost felt like, being that we are at the halfway point of the season, I feel like there's more. This show always has potential to give you more dreadful things to have to digest. So maybe this is sort of just the nice palate cleaning moment before we have to go in and just accept the horrible crap fest we're about to have to endure over the next few episodes.
They're feeding us a little hope before the plunge or something, I guess.
Right. True despair does not happen without hope, as in reference to Dark Knight Rises, just kind of come back to Burn Gorman, just keeping it rolling here, just keeping it rolling.
Yeah, there you go. Are we missing anything else? Oh, Jon is reunited with Ghost, which to me, I wish there was more to that scene. To me, that was like a tear-jerking moment for me in the books, because it was just, you're in Jon's head, and it's a longer reuniting, and to me that was a really like sad and happy moment that he gets reunited with Ghost. I feel like in this episode it's just like, oh hey boy, and he gives him a pet, and that's it. I mean, I guess that's all you can really do on a TV show.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. But to me, in the books, that was a sad, a happy, like bittersweet moment for me when he reunited with Ghost. I was like, oh man, this is good.
Were you wanting a Ron Burgundy Baxter reuniting moment like from Anchorman, just
yes.
like just tears bawling and licking each other's faces and stuff like that?
Pretty much. But yeah, that's. Is there anything else we're missing from the North? They burn Craster's Keep. The wives decide they're gonna go out on their own.
Yeah, good luck to them.
Yeah, good luck to that. I mean, best of luck to them. So I don't really have much else to add to the North.
It was a scene, like you said, not in the books. I think it was appropriate for the show. It adds a little filler, allows Jon to go back to the wall, more of a man, and allows Bran to continue on with his journey. Yep. And it worked out well. It provided for a fun-filled moment. I'm shocked it came so quick, but I'm glad it happened this episode.
Yep. Yeah. Weekend at Craster's was a success.
Yes.
And it was closed up and ended in 2 episodes, and it was just right.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, final. This is the meat of the episode, and it's all about Baelish. It's all about Baelish and Kate Dickie is Liza Aaron, Liza Tully. But we have their entrance. They're walking to the Blood Gates, which I think looks awesome. I don't know if you noticed, but they redid the look of the Eyrie. I don't know if you saw that. When they show the view of the castle itself, they have changed the way it looks visually.
Okay.
I can show you a picture later. It's a picture of the season 1 version compared to this one. They've changed it a bit. I don't know why.
Is it more in line with the book, or is it just sort of just?
Well, that's the weird thing, is neither of them really are.
Okay.
It's just a minor couple changes. You know what I think it is that the way the moon door is in the show,
Yeah.
the moon door is on the bottom of the structure in the show, whereas the moon door in the books is just a door that opens on the side of the castle, and they just throw someone out.
Okay.
So it's a the layout's a little different.
Yeah.
So, anyways, yeah, I don't know. It's a picture. You'll see it, and you'll be like, okay, I don't understand why they really changed that. Maybe it was to make the down drop a little bit more visible or something. I don't know. But yeah, other than that, I mean, it looks good. Everything looks good. They re-enter the Eyrie. Sansa is having to hide her hair. She's trying to keep her identity hidden.
Yeah, because I guess the red hair of Tully's are obviously pretty recognizable in that land.
Yep. And so, yeah. We had this funny scene. Baelish comes into the sky chamber, or whatever it's called, and Lysa and her son are there. And I think it's the same actor for the son. He's grown up a little.
Yeah. I mean, if it's not, they got somebody pretty darn close. I mean, I wasn't really shocked by the. It seemed like the same reactions and similar voice and stuff like that. So yeah, I was thinking it was at least, and they got somebody that looked like him if it wasn't the same actor.
Yeah, I want to confirm it now.
But we didn't see Lysa's breast hanging out. There were no breastfeeding going on.
Yeah, she looks like she's finally stopped breastfeeding him. Maybe.
Maybe they were in between meals. We don't know.
That's true. All right, yeah, I don't have it up right now, but anyways, yeah. So I thought it was funny. Baelish gives him that little gift. It's like a little glass bird, and Robert Aaron just throws it out the sky door, and like Peter Baelish's like, "Motherfucker, I just got you that toy." like you see the look of annoyance on his face.
Yeah, he's like, "You son of a bitch! Do you realize what times we live in? A glass bird isn't easy to come by. You know, it's not like it's just a factory making it. You know, I had to buy that special made."
Yeah, that was a pretty close interpretation of a glass bird. It was probably hand carved. It took hours to make, and he just throws it out the moon door. It's like, okay, whatever. But yeah, the main thing that's important here is that this whole Peter Baelish thing is a major reveal that Lysa had a part in Jon Arryn's death, and that Peter was the mastermind behind it. And this has huge repercussions of the whole show, pretty much, because it basically Baelish started this whole like snowball of chaos, pretty much.
Yeah.
He is the orchestrator of the War of the Five Kings, pretty much. He's the one who started. He kicked off the fire, pretty much.
Yeah, but surprisingly, they kind of do it nonchalantly as well. The reveal just there's no real pause, just kind of mid-conversation, and then it's just like sort of hushing. He sort of hushes Lysa up, and just like, yeah, let's get married. It's just like, it kind of came and went really fast. But yeah, he had Jon Arryn killed. And without Jon Arryn dying, we don't have Ned taking the role as a Hand of the King, and hence Ned dying, and then so on and so forth. Yeah, it was the first tip domino in this long domino effect that's continuing to fall.
Yeah, and yeah, you're right. It was kind of casually revealed. It was almost to the point where I caught that, and I understand what's going on. But then in my head, I'm like, man, are the casual viewers going to understand this? Like, are they going to really catch it or pay attention? Because that's a huge reveal. That's like Megalode right there, like crazy. But yeah, it basically just shows how deep Littlefinger is manipulating this whole scenario, pretty much. Yeah. So once again, I commend Kate Dickie for her performance as Lysa. Like she is physically different. Like Lysa is described as a fatter woman in the books. But to me, when I picture Lysa Arryn in my head, I picture Kate Dickie because I feel like she plays the role so well. She has that whole like crazy tick thing going on.
Yeah.
Where you feel like she could boil over at any moment and just blow up on you.
Just the way the animations in her face and everything like that, you totally buy into she seems one of the more realer characters in this universe. Like she has been very impressive in the few episodes that she's been in.
Yeah, she's just a total nut job, and then we see the scene where I feel bad for Sansa again because you can tell like she's all happy and she's enjoying her time, and then that whole conversation happens where Lysa pretty much blows up on her, like, "Is Peter after you? Are you sleeping with Peter?" Like she's just like, are you a virgin? Like, she just keeps bombarding her, and then I look at Sansa's face, and she's like, shit, I just got rid of one psychopath, and now I'm stuck with another one. Like,
well, it was like worse. She even it wasn't just so much that she just accused her of not being a virgin. She accused her of being pregnant. Like, she's like, "Are you pregnant?" You know, just like she was like, you know, she went like all the way to the other end, the other extreme. Like, she was about ready to you know, to slit Sansa's throat if she could. I mean, it was pretty crazy. And on top of that, Sansa was having to sleep or, you know, lay in bed the night before, listening to the bedroom romp of Lysa and Peter Baelish. So yeah, that was it's been a fun.
It's true to the books too. Well, at least the sexual part, but there's a lot different from this actually. There's a lot trimmed out. You want me to talk about those a little bit?
Sure.
So the whole Baelish and Lysa getting married, it didn't actually happen at the Eyrie. So at this point in the books, Peter Baelish doesn't take Sansa straight to the Eyrie. He takes her to his home estate in the Fingers, and he basically shows Sansa how quaint his keep is, pretty much. Like, Littlefinger has a small tower on the coast, and he's got like 4 people in his service. He is a meager lord. Like, he shows he's definitely rags to riches. So he's got like a meager holdfast, and all he has is a couple herds of sheep and some sheep herders. And they burn dung for the fire. Like, he lives a very shitty lifestyle compared to most lords. But anyways, Lysa meets him there with her escort or whatever, her guard, her escorts, and they get married there. It's more of like a secret wedding. Like, they just kind of do it away from all the Vale lords. And yeah, there's some other stuff that's left out that I think might actually happen. So I'm not going to mention that. I think they just might have rearranged some of the chronology of this.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to mention those things, because I do believe they will happen in the story, just later. So, but yeah, the location's different at this point. They do end up going to the Eyrie, but it's a little later. I think they just cut out Peter Baelish's estate because it's another film location that they probably don't want to, I guess, free some budget for.
Right.
And they have this beautiful, the set of the Eyrie that looks just gorgeous. I imagine they just want to film there because it's so nice. So, yeah, good stuff. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about regarding these scenes?
Well, I want to ask you. So, in that odd conversation between Lysa and Sansa in that chamber, are we to understand that Lysa plans on marrying her son off to Sansa? Was that our understanding there?
That is the plan that is revealed at that point. Yes.
Okay. Very, very weird. I mean, I'm sure it's not uncommon for in such a world to have cousins marry, but it seems a bit bizarre.
Yeah.
But also we see in that there was sort of a moment there where Lysa begins talking about Tyrion and basically saying how awful he is and calling him just horrible names. Basically relegating him to lower than human. And Sansa really kind of, not full-heartedly, but she does come to Tyrion's defense, and you can see, and the person that Lysa is describing is not real. The real Tyrion has been seen by Sansa. He's a very caring individual. He's good to her, and in fact, and this continues on with Sophie Turner's just great acting and just her facial expressions, everything like that. She's been fantastic at the non-verbal acting throughout the season, and you could read everything in her face and her realizing, I wanted to go to, there was comfort in my family, but now I'm realizing that my family may be more dangerous to me than the man I'm married to, and you sort of suddenly, she starts, the reality of her husband possibly being killed and her last really sort of true ally that she's been able to sort of open up to in recent times may be gone from her, and she may, Sansa has continued to be passed on to bad circumstance, from bad circumstance to bad circumstance, and I think she's realizing that being with Tyrion may be a much more healthier situation.
Yeah, and that's a sad thing too, is that we mentioned this before, that Tyrion is seen by many. Dwarves are not, like, you got to think, in our world, in modern times here in America, people with handicaps like dwarfism or people in wheelchairs or anything like that. No one like that is looked down upon. Like no one's like there's no stigma that we believe that all dwarfs are conniving evil people or something like. But
Right.
in this world, in the world of Ice and Fire, Tyrion is seen as like some conniving little demon monkey guy. Like no one like, and that's the way Lysa views him. And it's just the same effect. Catelyn Stark did the same thing. She, until her death, she was basically saying, "Hey, look, Tyrion is a evil man. He's cunning. He's running the Lannisters, yada yada." And Sansa spent enough time with him to realize he's a real, genuine human being. He's just he gets a bad rep, like unfairly. So yeah, you're right. She does somewhat defend him a little bit. I don't think she sees Tyrion the same way a lot of other people do.
No.
Yeah. I think that was the last scene we had of them, though, is when Lysa kind of blows up on Sansa.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And then we went into the north to sort of close things out. But yeah, I'm assuming this is not the end of what we're hearing about Peter Baelish. I think it's safe to say that he may be the second most powerful person in this world right now, in behind Tywin. I mean, obviously Tywin can pull more strings than Peter Baelish, but Peter has a lot of strings in his hands.
Do you want me to give you some? There's a lot of information that's left out. And a lot of information in the books tells us about the strategical importance of different regions, etc. And you're not wrong at all when you say Baelish has jumped his power even more, because let's think about what he's been given. He was given a lordship at Harrenhal, which he was also given the Lord Regency of the Riverlands, which means that whereas the Tullys were seen as the Lord Regents of the Riverlands before, Peter Baelish is the Lord Regent now that the Tullys have fallen. So he has Lord Regency in the Riverlands. He has just married the Lady Arryn, so he is in a leadership position in the Mountains of the Vale. And yeah, I mean, those are two huge pieces of power. And he also has the last known surviving heir to Winterfell with him. So I'm just laying out the pieces. That's all that's there. I mean, it's all there, but when you lay it out on the table, he has a lot of power in his court right now.
Yeah, it's a ragtag group of pieces, but it's some very big pieces that he has.
And then you also have to put this into the equation, is that the Mountains of the Vale have remained neutral throughout the whole war. They have not sent one knight out of that land. They have not seen any. They have not seen any war. They have not lost any crops. That is the most intact land in Westeros right now.
Well, hell, he says they're walking up that mountain pass that he said that it's basically impenetrable. You'd have to go, 3 men across, and 100 men could easily take out 10,000 men or something like that. It's like it's a very strategic location for sure.
He's got something going there. That's all I'm going to say. I mean, when you lay out all these pieces, he's got something going. That's all I got to say. He's a very strategic guy, so.
He has jumped the power rankings to probably #1 in the Game of Thrones power rankings right now.
I gotta say, I think he is the strongest player of the Game of Thrones because he's been playing everybody, and that people don't even know he's a threat. They don't even see it. So, good old Baelish.
That damn Littlefinger.
Yes. So yeah, any more remarks you want to make before we close it out?
No, all I'm gonna say is that we're at the halfway point, and 5 more episodes to go in this season. It's bittersweet, but you can only imagine that good things are coming our way for this second half.
Yeah, I have very high hopes. We're gonna have some great stuff coming, so yeah, it's gonna be a ride. We got 5 more episodes, so yeah. Until next week, that's when we'll see the episode Laws of Gods and Men. Now, I have to apologize. We had meant to record on Monday, but as usual, but for some reason Google Hangouts wouldn't let us broadcast on Monday, so here we are Wednesday recording this. And yeah, we'll touch up with you guys hopefully Monday next week. Laws of Gods and Men. If you guys are new here or just this is the first time seeing us, you can find us at altness.com. We have other discussion videos. You can find the rest of our Game of Thrones discussion videos there. You can follow us. We're at Twitter at altness. If you want to follow me personally, I'm at McBalls. He's at JJ Wade.
Yes, JJ Wade, JJWADE.
Yep. So yeah, give us a follow. If you guys have any comments or questions, leave them in the comments. We'll do our best to answer them. I'm usually pretty responsive on that. And yeah, until next time, we'll see you for the next episode, The Laws of Gods and Men. Have a good one, and we'll see you guys next time.